Welcome back. Now, Africa's mining sector is at a turning point. As demand for critical minerals accelerates, pressure is mounting to make operations safer, more sustainable and more productive. At this year's Mining Indaba, the focus has shifted from experimentation to execution, how electrification, automation and digitalisation can move mining beyond pilot projects to real operational impact on the ground. Sabine Dall'Omo, CEO of Siemens Sub-Saharan Africa, joins us now to unpack how technology can empower this shift and shape a safer, smarter future for African mining. Sabine, thank you so much for your time today. Joining us from now sunny Cape Town. Maybe let's start off by you just taking us through from where you sit, right? How strong is appetite among mining companies to invest in automation right now? I'll just quote some of your research, which suggests that up to 40% of machinery in the sector could be autonomous by 2040. What's driving that appetite, and where are you seeing the gaps? Where are miners still hesitant?
Well, thank you, first of all, for having us. And if you look at, join some of the session, particular around some of the presentation by the mining houses here at the Mining Indaba of what there is idea going for the future, but also, retrospectively, what kind of areas they will put in focus. And I think it's quite striving in comparison to previous Indabas, that it's very much around using data for higher productivity and for higher safety standards. And I do believe with the current situation, specifically commodities, if you think about gold, but also silver, other rare minerals really being on top, the mining houses have the financial means also to do these kind of investments and to basically get future ready. So far as we see right now from the discussion here, there are not too many hold-ups actually implementing it. I think the biggest hold-up currently would be the resources being available to get, a project designed for that matter.
You mentioned something quite important there around higher productivity. And of course, when we have conversations around automation, digitalization, there's always a concern around jobs. But I know in the mining sector in particular, these technologies are often positioned as safety enhancing rather than job replacing. So just zooming in on that and the conversations that are taking place in Cape Town at the moment, how's industry looking at allaying those fears around job losses?
Well, I think there are two aspects to it. First of all, as you already rightly said, a lot of the technology is used to improve safety standards and to improve predictability. Like, for instance, if you have data on your rock formation and you can use, you can foresee when potential, events could happen depending on rain and other natural events potentially coming into like an open pit mine, but even at underground mines. And I think safety of the employees and safety of the assets is really something which the mining houses here have on first priority. So, it's not so much on the topic of productivity against job losses. But one very important part which comes along as well is around the community engagement and how you can be, a miner in a community, but can have a reasonable community productivity in the context of having access to other technologies, like, for instance, looking after water, looking after electricity, and hence enabling a community to be economic active without necessarily being all employed in the mines. And I find this quite interesting because that also means that these kind of regions are not too much depending all the way along on the mining operation itself. Because when you think about the biggest challenge we have is when a mine basically exceeds the lifespan and it has to be demobilized, what do you do with the workforce? And I think the way on how they look at it currently is really having the long-term impact beyond the life of a mine.
Yeah, so secondary markets as well as benefiting communities beyond just the mining operations. Of course, we've seen this happen throughout the years with the coal mines across the country. And I just want to get a sense of where you see, as Siemens, right, from a technology perspective and as being an equipment provider, where you still see some of the gaps in the market. I love what you mentioned there around creating secondary markets outside of the mining sector.
Yeah, so if you think about, like, for instance, using digital technology within a mining operation, then, we have a lot of fragmented implementations in the mines. It's very much depending on, who likes what kind of technology. But as you go digital and you will think about the big AI companies, they're about size, they are not fragmentation. And that's for the mining operation, because as more you standardize on one technology, as better the output is going to be, because at the end of the day, to get that optimum out of the activity you are mining, it is using all the data being available, and ideally the data generation from one source, because that will help you then to amplify also what kind of activity happen in the mine, and you can use it then for correlation, not only within the operation, but also within to financial results. And that's what the mining companies since many years want to see, because remember, mining is a very, very expensive activity, and you need to get this money from the market or from the capital market or from the banks. And for that purpose, you do need to come up with a solid business plan, and data underpins your business plan. And there is a lot of work still to be done, because we have a very fragmented installation in many of the operations.
Interesting what you said there. I mean, we also talk about mining being a very high cost kind of business to operate. We've been having conversations around high electricity prices across the mining sector, and that's been playing out over the past few years. But we fortunately have to leave it there. Sabine, thank you so much for your time and sharing your insights with us today. Now, that was CEO of Siemens Sub-Saharan Africa, Sabine Dall'Omo.